Good morning. I hereby call to order this fourth meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2019 and ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning once again. The Commission today will act on various matters at this meeting, which we know is open to the public. However, since adequate forums have been made available to the public for participation in cases before us today, there's no opportunity for the public to address the Commission at this meeting. I also remind you to please note the safety information on the inside of the cover of your agenda in case we need to leave this room. The first matter on this morning's agenda are the minutes of the meeting for February 7, 2019, and I call upon Vice Chairman Sweet, who is the editor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have reviewed the minutes of the public meeting of February 7th, 2019, and move they be approved as submitted.
You have heard the motion of Vice Chairman Sweet. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Place. Any discussion or further edits of the meeting, of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. At this time, we will call upon our Secretary, Rosemary Chiavetta, to lead us through today's agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Your bureaus and offices have prepared the following agenda for your consideration. Therefore, let us begin on page 1 with a case of special interest. It is recommended by the Office of Special Assistance that the Commission conduct a binding poll of the issues to address the exceptions and replies to exceptions filed by the parties in response to the ALJ's recommended decision in the rate case of Hidden Valley Utility Services Water and Wastewater Companies. Therefore, turning to the polling sheets, we begin with issue number 1. Should Hidden Valley Utility Services, Water, and Wastewater Companies requested water rate increase of $150,629 and wastewater rate increase of $185,432 be rejected in their entirety?
On the first issue, calling on Commissioner Coleman.
ALJ.
Commissioner Place.
ALJ.
Commissioner Kennard.
Also ALJ.
Vice Chairman Sweet.
OCA.
And I will be voting with the ALJ. Any comments on the first issue before we move to the second one?
Chairman, I just have a couple of general comments that I'd like to add to the record this morning.
Commissioner Coleman.
I'm going to be voting this morning to adopt the ALJ's recommendation. I just wanted to emphasize a couple of points here. The first is that during the public input process, we heard from a number of the Hidden Valley customers, and I just wanted to note for the record that we do hear and appreciate the frustration that has been shared by the Hidden Valley customers. This commission has already made a determination that Hidden Valley service is unreasonable, and that we have made it very clear that unless there are certain improvements that are made by a date certain, that this commission would initiate a proceeding that could result in the transfer of ownership to a competent utility to run the operation. With that being said, I agree with the ALJ's assessment that BI&E provided persuasive evidence that Hidden Valley is currently operating at a loss, and that there is a need for some revenue to cover the cost of service, maintenance, and to make the mandatory improvements that we have recommended. It's noteworthy that Hidden Valley has not been before this commission for a rate increase since 2005. So with those comments being said, that again, I find it appropriate to be adopting the ALJ's recommendation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further comments on the first issue?
Madam Chair, just very quickly.
Vice Chairman Sweet.
I agree with the sentiments expressed by Commissioner Coleman but obviously, given my vote, disagree with the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments on the first issue? Seeing none?
Turning to issue number 2, ALJ's modification of the revenue requirement and rate design in the non-unanimous partial settlement water and wastewater.
Commissioner Coleman,
ALJ.
Commissioner Place,
ALJ.
Commissioner Kennard,
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Sweet,
Given my vote on issue number 1, it's only logical that I abstain from voting on issue 2.
and I will be voting with the ALJ. Any comments on this second issue before we move on? Seeing none?
Issue number 3A, independent financial audit.
Commissioner Coleman,
ALJ.
Commissioner Place,
ALJ.
Commissioner Kennard,
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Sweet,
Foundation.
and I will be voting with the ALJ. Any comments on this issue, 3A, before we move forward? Seeing none?
Issue number 3B, timing of audit report filing.
Commissioner Coleman,
ALJ.
Commissioner Place,
ALJ.
Commissioner Kennard,
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Sweet,
ALJ.
and I will be voting with ALJ. Any comments on this issue before we move forward? Seeing none?
Issue number 3C, submission of annual reports and assistance.
Commissioner Coleman,
ALJ.
Commissioner Place,
ALJ.
Commissioner Kennard,
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Sweet,
ALJ.
and I will be voting with the ALJ. Any comments on this issue before this is our last issue. Any comments on this? Seeing none?
Madam Chairman, that concludes the binding poll. Moving forward with the regular agenda, it is recommended by Director Bechtel and the Bureau of Consumer Services that the Commission adopt the proposed tentative order regarding Columbia Gas of Pennsylvania.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kennard, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? I would like to just put some comments on the record about this case. Before us is the Columbia Gas of Pennsylvania, their 2000 and their Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan. And for their proposed budget of the 2019 and 2021 plan, as supplemented and amended, contains requisites of 4 components cited in the statutory definition of universal service. Under Section 2202 of the Public Utility Code, that are intended to help the low-income customers maintain utility service. Under this description of its CAP program, Columbia defines a payment-troubled customer as someone who has received a termination notice, broken a payment agreement within the past 12 months, has been identified as financially vulnerable because he or she has a low credit score or is in an EDC's cap. So the tentative order that we are issuing today sets forth aspects that Columbia will need to address prior to our approval of their plan. I call on the parties in this proceeding to file comments regarding the definition of a payment trouble customer as it relates to their low credit score to give us further clarification. Any further comments on this case? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 3 and matters presented by Director Sophie and the Office of Special Assistance, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the Commission adopt both formal complaint items on page 3.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Commissioner Kennard. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to the top of page 4, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the complaint of Stephanie Sawyer versus the Philadelphia Gas Works.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Kennard. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
Vice Chairman Sweet.
Thank you. I ask my motion be placed upon the record as if I'd read it in its entirety. This matter comes before us on the exceptions of complainant Stephanie Sawyer and the reply exceptions of Philadelphia Gas Works to the initial decision of Administrative Law Judge Vero in a consumer complaint case alleging that PGW had failed to follow the Commission's directives in a prior complaint case filed by Ms. Sawyer against PGW. The ALJ's decision sustained the complaint in part and denied it in part, directs PGW to conduct its rebilling of the time in question again, and imposes a civil penalty on PGW for its actions and delays. This motion denies the exceptions and adopts the initial decision of the ALJ. Therefore, I move that, first, the exceptions of Stephanie Sawyer filed in the docket are denied. Secondly, that the reply exceptions of Philadelphia Gas Works are granted. Thirdly, that the initial decision of Administrative Law Judge Vero is adopted. And finally, that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an appropriate order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
You have heard the motion of Vice Chairman Sweet. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Place. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. On the matter as amended, if there's no objection, we'll take the previous roll call. Seeing no objection, the matter as amended passes 5-0.
Continuing on page 4, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the informal investigation by the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus Vista Energy Marketing.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Kennard, second by Commissioner Coleman. Under discussion, I do have a motion, so I'm going to turn over. You want the gavel this time?
No, you never want to
Just want to
give me
make sure. I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chairman Sweet.
I won't keep it, I promise. The chair is recognized for the purpose of her motion.
Thank you very much. I ask that my motion be entered into the record in its entirety, and I will read the abbreviated version of it. Before the Commission is the settlement agreement filed by the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement and Vista Energy Marketing, LP. Here, INE and Vista concluded that the company permitted subcontracted door-to-door marketers to operate while their Pennsylvania Access to Criminal History, or PATCH, queries were pending. The settlement shows a total of 124 individuals were conditionally approved to sell EGS services on behalf of Vista pending results of their patch reports. In the settlement, Vista agrees to pay a civil penalty of $37,500, acknowledges that the company has taken corrective action, and agrees to modify its operational procedures in an effort to further assure similar events do not occur. When reviewing applicable regulations and the record of this proceeding, it seems apparent that the company did not comply with 52 PA Code 111.1 through 111.14. These regulations in pertinent part state, a supplier may not permit a person to conduct door-to-door sales and marketing activities until it has obtained and reviewed a criminal history record. I am not convinced that the settled upon penalty of $37,500 is in the public interest. In the incident proceeding, the company committed, at a minimum, 124 violations of the Commission regulations by permitting subcontractors to offer EGS marketing services without first having completed background checks. Under the existing civil penalty, this equates to a fine of $302 per violation. I submit that pursuant to the Commission's policy statement for the evaluation of settled violation proceedings, this amount per violation is not in the public interest. It is apparent from the record that these violations are of a serious nature. While it is not prudent to speculate, it is reasonably logical to conclude that temporarily authorizing personnel to market door-to-door without fully completing criminal background reviews may result in serious consequences and irreparable public harm. Further, the record exhibits that the company did not commit these violations in error, but rather permitted the violations to occur at a request of a subcontractor. I will note that these are some components in this record mitigating the necessity for a maximum fine. The company has exhibited a good faith effort to remedy these violations and has cooperated with our I&E. Balancing all these variables, it is imperative to establish a penalty which will deter further violations from this company and send a proper signal to the Commonwealth's marketplace on the severity of violations of this nature. The regulations in this instance are clear, permitting any persons to conduct door-to-door marketing or sales activities without having obtained and reviewed a background check is a violation. It is unfortunate but necessary to ensure that this fact is made abundantly clear to Vista as well as other EGSs and natural gas suppliers. Therefore, I believe it necessary to increase the fine to $52,700. This represents a per violation fine amount of $425 applied to each of the 124 violations and a total increase in the fine of $15,200 or 40%. This increase is in the public interest since it is more appropriately recognizes the severity and gravity of the actions. Therefore, I move that, 1, the settlement agreement is modified consistent with this motion. 2, the Office of Special Assistance draft an opinion and order consistent with this motion. 3, the parties shall have 45 days from the issuance of an opinion and order to indicate by letter whether they intend to withdraw from the settlement. And 4, should either I&E or Vista Energy inform the commission of its withdrawal from the settlement, this proceeding shall be referred to the Office of Administrative Law Judge for appropriate hearings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded by Commissioner Kennard. Is there any commentary from anyone? If not, all in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion is adopted 5-0. May we take the same vote on the final passage? Seeing compliance and agreement with that request, the motion is adopted. I return the virtual gavel.
Thank you very much.
It is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt the remaining item on page 4, the application of PennDOT, and include the 2 items on page 5, ending with the complaint of Kristen Kessler versus the Metropolitan Edison Company.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Commissioner Kennard. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 6, in matters presented by Director Diskin and the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt all of the items on page 6, beginning with the application of UGI utilities, and to include the first 2 items at the top of page 7, ending with the rate proposal of the Buck Hill Water Company.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Kennard. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Continuing on page 7, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt the remaining 2 items on page 7 regarding Frontier Communications.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Sweet, second by Commissioner Kennard. Under discussion, let me just state that I will be recusing myself from both of these cases, consistent with Section 1102 of the Commonwealth Ethics Act, because my brother is an employee of Frontier Communications, and I will just submit both of these statements for the record in their entirety. With that, any further discussion on these 2 cases? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0, noting my recusal on both cases.
Turning to page 8, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt all 3 items on page 8.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kennard, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion on these cases? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 9, it is recommended by Chief Counsel Panque and the Law Bureau that the commission adopt the proposed order in the petition of PennDOT.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 10, and matters presented by Chief A.L.J. Rainey and the Office of Administrative Law Judge. It is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt both A.L.J. recommended decisions appearing on page 10.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kennard, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion on the cases? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes all items to be considered today.
Thank you. At this point, I do want to turn it over to Vice Chairman Sweet for comments on Fix a Leak Week.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next week, the week of March 18th, is National, quote, Fix a Leak, unquote, week, highlighting the importance of safe drinking water, along with the role of water efficiency and conservation efforts. Household leaks nationwide waste nearly 1 trillion gallons of water per year, enough water to supply every family in Pennsylvania for more than 2 full years. According to the U.S. EPA, an estimated 10% of all homes have leaks that waste 90 gallons or more per day, and the average household leaks can waste more than 10,000 gallons of water per year. A key part of the program is a call for households across the country to check their fixtures for leaks and consider the environmental and economic impact of wasted water. We encourage consumers to check the PUC website and social media channels during the coming week for tips and information about simple things you can do to identify and fix leaks around the house. As I noted earlier, small leaks can add up to a large amount of wasted water, and this is a problem that everyone can play a role in solving. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sweet. There are no more matters to come before us today. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
And I'm assuming there's a second somewhere along.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Vice Chairman Sweet, second by Commissioner Kennard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.